here's the Biden just put out an executive order on cryptocurrencies. Here's everything that's in it. We have the executive order, or actually the fact sheet from the White House also. And I'm not sure if we should review this or do that, but I think this is longer than the fact sheet. So let's do the fact sheet first and see where we are at the end of this. So here's the fact sheet from the White House. Some people will call this propaganda. So some people would just call it a fact sheet. So you make your own decision. So here's the fact sheet. President Biden to sign executive order, and he did sign it, on ensuring responsible development of digital assets. Now, before we get going, let me tell you this, my own opinion. The whole point about crypto is that it's not involved. Governments are not involved. That's the beauty and the attraction. So when the government is going to ensure responsible development, they really had nothing to do with the development in the first place. So all they're trying to do is regulate the markets and try to have control over it. In my opinion, that's what's happening here. And I think it's evident by what's going on here. So here, the executive order outlines first whole of government strategy to protect consumers, financial stability, national security, and address climate risks. So all of this is going to be the United States government when it comes to cryptocurrencies. This is what they're going to do. Doesn't seem possible, does it? Well, let's find out. Digital assets, including cryptocurrencies, have seen enormous explosive growth in recent years, surpassing a $3 trillion market cap last November, and up from $15 billion just 5 years prior. Approximately 40 million people have invested in, traded, or used cryptocurrencies. Over 100 countries are exploring or piloting central bank digital currencies, or we call them stable coins, a digital form of the country's sovereign currency. The rise in digital assets creates an opportunity to reinforce American leadership in the global financial system, or some would read that control, and at the technological frontier, but also has substantial implications for consumer protections. They always use that as an excuse for regulation, financial stability, national security, and climate risk. Climate risk. The United States must maintain technological leadership in this rapidly growing space, supporting innovation while mitigating the risks for consumers, businesses, and broad financial system, and the climate. Another climate. And it must play a leading role in international engagement and global governance of digital assets consistent with democratic values and U.S. global competitiveness. All sounds like government propaganda to me. That is why today President Biden will sign an executive order outlining the first ever whole of government approach to addressing the risks and harnessing the potential benefits of digital assets and their underlying technology. The order lays out a national policy for digital assets across 6 key priorities: consumer and investor protection, financial stability, illicit finance, U.S. leadership in the global financial system, and economic competitiveness, financial inclusion, and responsible innovation. Specifically, the executive order calls for measures to protect U.S. consumers, investors, and businesses by directing the Department of Treasury and other agency partners to assess and develop policy recommendations to address the implications of growing digital asset sector and changes in financial markets for consumers, investors, businesses, and equitable economic growth. This is what digital currency is all about. Equitable economic growth. The order also encourages regulators to ensure sufficient oversight and safeguard against any systematic financial risks posed by digital assets. One of the risks might be that when you put sanctions on someone or freeze their bank account like they did in Canada, maybe it won't be very effective. That might be the risk that they're concerned about. Protect U.S. and global financial stability and mitigate systematic risk by encouraging the Financial Stability Oversight Council to identify and mitigate economy-wide systematic financial risks posed by digital assets and to develop appropriate policy recommendations to address any regulatory gaps. Regulatory gaps? we talked about this yesterday. One of the gaps is that there is no the many of the rules that apply to stocks don't apply to crypto, and so they want them to apply. So that's one of the gaps. One of the things, many of the gaps that as they see as a gap, many look at as a benefit of cryptocurrency. The lost sale rule, for one. Mitigate the illicit finance and national security risks posed by the illicit use of digital assets by directing an unprecedented focus of a coordinated action across all relevant U.S. government agencies to mitigate these risks. It also directs agencies to work with our allies and partners to ensure international frameworks, capabilities, and partnerships are aligned and responsive to risks. So all the governments are going to work together to regulate. Promote U.S. leadership in technology and economic competitiveness to reinforce U.S. leadership in the global financial system. And anything that stands in the way of that will be crushed. That's my little editorial. By directing the Department of Commerce to work across the U.S. government in establishing a framework to drive U.S. competitiveness and leadership in and leveraging of digital asset technologies. This framework will serve as a foundation for agencies and integrate this as a priority into their policy, research and development, and operational approach to digital assets. Promote equitable access to safe and affordable financial services by affirming the critical need for safe, affordable, and accessible financial services as a U.S. national interest that must inform our approach to digital asset innovation, including disparate impact risk. Such safe access is especially important for communities that have long had insufficient access to financial services. The Secretary of Treasury, working with all relevant agencies, will produce a report on the future of money and payment systems to include implications from economic growth, financial growth and inclusion, national security, and the extent to which technological innovation may influence that future. Support technological advances and ensure responsible development and use of digital assets by directing the U.S. government to take concrete steps to study and support technological advances in the responsible development, design, and implementation of digital asset systems while prioritizing privacy. Is that really what they're security, combating illicit exploitation, and reducing negative climate impacts. I guess the climate impact kind of goes to the development of the mining of Bitcoin, because mining of others is not really that energy intensive. And many of the energy intensive aspects of Bitcoin mining have been overcome or are being overcome. One of the things that they're doing in El Salvador is the use of volcano, and so it has very little, if any, impact on the environment, since they're using the geothermal electricity generation. Just saying. But this is what, again, is this what we were thinking? Is this what was thinking about when with the birth of cryptocurrency? You think they were looking to be inequitable or hurt the climate? Is that what this is all about? Do we need the United States government to stand up and stop it in the name of climate change or in the name of inequality? Not inequality. Inequitable treatment? That's not inequality. Inequity. Different. And reducing negative climate impacts. I just got to look at it. What? Explore a U.S. central bank digital currency by placing urgency on research and development of potential United States CBDC, the U.S. central bank's digital currency. The order directs the United States government to assess the technological infrastructure and capacity needs for potential U.S. CBDC in a manner that protects American interests. The order also encourages the Federal Reserve to continue its research, development, and assessment efforts from the U.S. and these digital currencies, including development of a plan for broader U.S. government action in support of their work. This effort prioritizes U.S. participation in multi-country experimentation and ensures U.S. leadership internationally to promote the digital currency development that is consistent with U.S. priorities and democratic values. The administration will continue to work across agencies and with Congress to establish policies that guard against risks and guide responsible innovation with our allies and partners to develop aligned international capabilities that respond to national security risks, and with the private sector to study and support technological advances and digital assets. So that's the story. I don't always understand. Again, I love reading a government documents because they all kind of sound the same, don't they? We will investigate and come up with a solution that is both fair. What does Mr. Carlson do on WKRP? That is both firm yet flexible. So, I mean, that's government ease. Much of it doesn't really mean anything. So what does that mean? Here's what it really means. They're going after regulation, right? They don't like not having control over it, and they want control over it. Simple as that. And again, because people may be able to get around the government's stranglehold on everything in our lives.